Let's call this regular meeting of Ketchikan City Council to order. Please call the roll.
Coos?
Here.
Harris?
Present.
Carlson?
Here.
Olson?
Here.
Severson?
Here.
West?
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sure, Marty, I'll move it by you.
Thank you very much. First thing on the agenda is public hearings for Resolution 132506, amending the 2013 General Government Annual Budget, Wastewater Division $192,000, and Fire Department $160,765. Is there anybody here to speak to that? Seeing none, we close that public hearing and we open a public hearing for Resolution 132507, amending the 2013 Ketchikan Public Utilities Annual Budget, Water Division $208,000. Anybody here to speak to that? Seeing none, we'll close that public hearing. Those are grant funds we're just putting in our budget. That brings us down to communications. We have that website live for the Mill Mission and Stedman Street reconstruction with the state. The 5-year review of the 2008 Congress National Forest Land and Resource Management Plan documents. They've extended the comment period to June. Plus, we have a proclamation today for Nurses Week. And I'll read the proclamation. I think somebody's here to accept it. Whereas the dedicated men and women of Alaska who have chosen nursing as a career are devoted and responsible professionals, and they make a difference every day in the quality of lives and medical care for all Alaskans. And whereas studies indicate the appropriate levels of staffing contribute to improved health outcomes, shorter hospital stays, fewer adverse events that can result in fatalities, safer patient care, and improved nursing work environment. Whereas there are currently 7,142 registered nurses, 653 practical nurses, and 85 registered nurse anesthetists, and 565 advanced practice nurses in Alaska. Whereas the University of Alaska School of Nursing has expanded its capacity to educate and graduate more nurses to meet the growing demand by offering distance and technology-based delivery of nursing education at 13 additional sites statewide. And whereas youth in Alaska should be encouraged to consider nursing as an excellent professional opportunity and rewarding way to provide much-needed health services to the people of Alaska. And whereas the Alaska Nurses Association has declared delivery, quality, and innovation in patient care the theme of National Nurses Week, now therefore be it resolved that I, Lou Williams III, Mayor of the City of Ketchikan, Alaska, do hereby proclaim May 6th to the 12th, 2013 as Nurses Week in Ketchikan, and ask that all residents join in honoring nurses, celebrating their professional accomplishments, and show appreciation for nurses at every opportunity throughout the year. Do we have anybody here to accept this? Come on up, Susan.
I have my photographer's key. Well, thank you very much. And
To the mic so everybody can hear you.
okay.
Thank you very much on behalf of all the nurses in Alaska, and I am the president of the Alaska Nurses Association, local now. Actually,
Who are you?
Oh, I'm sorry, Lou. All right, I'm Susan Walsh. I'm sorry, I've known almost everybody here for a very long time.
I know. I just want to make sure that everybody knows.
Thank you. It's on the record. But thank you very much, and I'm sorry it was a long whereases, but thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, that brings us down to persons to be heard. Kathleen, start us off. I think we missed you last time.
Anita did good.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathleen.
My name is Kathleen Light. I'm the director of the Arts Council. Wanted to give you a quick update for the month of April at the Arts Council. We hosted April Virch in April. She is an award-winning fiddler and step dancer. Came to Ketchikan. About 200 people saw her at K-High. In the Main Street Gallery, we had 520 folks go through the gallery this month, or last month, to see La Folie Circulaire, which was a photographic description of what it's like to live with bipolar disorder. In addition to the photos on the wall, we had two additional events with that gallery show. One was with the artists talking about why they chose to put on the exhibit and what it's like personally to have bipolar disorder. About 10 people attended that. We also had a discussion with the Gateway Health folks and a variety of other mental health experts to talk about bipolar disorder and how it affects your life and ways to get help if you need it. So those were great discussions. We were very happy to be able to host that show. They got picked up by several newspapers, one in Anchorage, one in Juneau. They've been asked to tour the exhibit. And so hopefully we can find them funding to help tour that exhibit around the state. We're really excited about that. This past weekend, the Arts Council hosted the arts organizations at the First City Expo. We had the Ketchikan Theater Ballet, the Ketchikan Community Chorus, the Ketchikan Community Band, the Ketchikan Children's Choir, Ketchikan Medieval and Renaissance Society, the Monthly Grind, the Square Dance, the Misty Thistles Pipes and Drums, and then we also featured the Ketchikan Art Lives Here website so people could go through our list of artists in Ketchikan. So that was really fun. Up tomorrow, Celebration of the Sea, the Arts Council. This is one of the Arts Council's 2 art walks. We are featuring 19 businesses on tomorrow evening. In addition, we have a lot of special events. I want to be sure that you guys know 2 of the events that you were instrumental in making happen. I hope that you'll be able to attend with us. The first one is at the Ketchikan Public Library. The artists who created the art pieces up there are going to talk about their pieces from the conception of the piece to the completion of the piece. So they're going to give us all the nitty-gritty details about how they did it and what their concepts were and why and all of that. I'm really excited about that. We have Yvonne Zerbetz, we have Ann Fitzgerald and Rhonda Green, and then Deb Turnbull and Sherry Henriksen and Jackie Kaiser speaking. So it should be really nice. And that's from 5 to 6. Immediately following that, we are going to go on the art bus, the bus painted by Ray Troll. The borough's letting us use that bus, and we are going to do a little public art tour. And we're going to hit a couple public art pieces in Ketchikan, Thundering Rings right here. We're going to look at the Rock and have Dave Rubin speak about that. Then we're going to go over and look at the piling caps that Stephen Jackson did on Thomas Basin. And then the bus is going to take us up to Terry Pyle's studio. And we're going to look at his piece, Yeltatsi Salmon, that he is in the process of completing. So it's a sneak peek of that piece, and we're able to use the bus, but we're only able to use the bus on a first-come, first-served basis. We can't reserve seats for anyone. We can't pre-sell the seats. So I can't reserve seats for you, but I sure would love it if you were there first in line to join us on that bus so we can go get a sneak peek at Terry's piece. And he, by the way, is on track to be finished with that piece well in advance of the unveiling date of July 4th. Also, the Blessing of the Fleet is on tomorrow night. It's 5:30 down at the Alaska Fish House dock. We're really happy that we've been able to be part of that for the past several years, helping to get everybody organized. And I think that's it. Do you have any questions?
Seeing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Bob Holtz.
And we'll encourage anybody who's here in favor of the skate park to join us up here. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Bob Foltz. I'm the president of the Ketchikan Youth Initiatives. Honorable Williams, Consul, thank you for this opportunity to stand before you this evening. We have, why I'm also here is just asked the city to partner up with Ketchikan Youth Initiatives, the Ketchikan Gateway Borough, and the community on this project, skate park project. We've been involved for a number of years, probably 6-7 years now, Bobby and I, and it's been a long road. We've made headways. We did reach an agreement with the borough for the grant agreement. Also, we asked that the city support the land transfer to Ketchikan Youth Initiatives also. as of, was it January, February, we're going to be on the agenda then, and we had some concerns on how really it was all together. So from then, Dave Martin and I and other people from the city, Seth, Mark, Jeff, we all been able to work together, come up with, hammer out, this issues that were kind of up in the air. Nobody really, we came together. And so with that, we're ready to break ground next month. June 15th is our target date. We have a contractor in Oregon. And thank you again. Bobby and I will be here when we come up on the agenda. She just passed around. These are pretty much a design the user group worked on with the contractor, Liquid Stone Designs LLC in Oregon. And this is how it's going to look. Our phase 1, phase 2 will be a roof over the skate park. That's phase 2, and then phase 3, we're working with the borough on the parcel on the other side of the culvert. And once that gets resolved, our plan is to put in some bowls, some pools, they also call them, and also covered some observation areas, picnic tables. We want to keep this aesthetically pleasing, have it flow, have it blend right in, with the environment locally to keep the trees in the creek there, just pristine as we can, clean, and of value to all locals today and in the future and for many years to come. And I don't know if you have any questions for me right now. Like I say, Bobby and I will be here for the duration till we're through.
And I don't know, is there anyone that wanted to speak?
Agnes Moran, 320. Do you guys do addresses here? Not sure. I just want to say, when we built the swimming pool right next to the rec center, we were a little bit uneasy about how that was all going to play out. And it turned out to be a really synergistic relationship there, and it's really exceeded all of our expectations. And I'm hopeful that by putting the skate park where it is next to the ballpark, I think we're going to see that same type of synergy there, and that you're going to have a lot more use than we really are anticipating here. And I think it's a good complement. These folks have done a lot of work. They've met the expectations we've set on our side of the table, and I really encourage you, if you can do it, to help support them and move it forward.
Thanks, Agnes. Anybody else want to speak?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Emily Chappell, and I longboard. That aside, I think that any program that supports our youth is very valuable to this community. As Agnes pointed out, we just built this beautiful rec and aquatic center that caters to our basketball players and our swimmers and the like, And so I think that now we need to provide for those who fit into those other niches of outdoor and non-traditional sports. And we provided the manpower and moved a few poles for the rec center, and I think that we could do the same for this group and this project. So I ask you guys to fully support the skate park project, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what we can do. Thanks, you guys.
Can you longboard in this?
Do you know what? I'm willing to try that. I longboard, but I'm willing to try it. If you guys will build it, you can come out and watch me give it a shot. We'll see.
Anybody else?
No.
Hi, Jonathan Tooley, 3101 Tongass Avenue. Members of the council, thank you for seeing us tonight, and I just want to kind of mention that you got a bunch of people back here. Everybody raise your hand if you plan to go skate this thing once it's done. And that's just the people that are here. It's kind of good to see. And Agnes is going to be the first one in. Agnes, yeah, she'll be the first one in. You try it, I'll try it. I think that's pretty much what it comes down to. When I was the age of some of the kids that are in the room right now, I did skate, and I happened to be in a community where something like this was built, and what it meant to the kids that were involved is something that's really hard to put into words. You've got a group of kids that in general, they're not necessarily football players, they're not necessarily basketball players. Emily might have mentioned this a moment ago about the new facility that was put together. It kind of does cater to the basketball players and to the swim team members. But to a group of kids that are a little bit more individual and want to get out there and do something that is not as organized of a sport, yet it is something that is physically challenging, something that gets out there and allows them to maybe hone some very unique skills while at the same time being outdoors and doing something positive. I'm 100% for it, and I would ask the council to support it if you would. Thank you.
Now look, we see you out there.
Hey, that's Lou Williams. He's going to be out there as well. Thank you. You can use my board.
Thank you.
All right.
Anybody else? Marty has a
No,
question.
Deanne has a question.
Oh, Deanne has a question. Sorry.
I just have to ask this for my own knowledge. Is it possible to skate in the rain?
It is really hard on the board, and it breaks it down quite quickly. That's why there's the need for the covered area if it's absolutely necessary.
My name's Ian Foltz, 530 Pine Street. I've been a member of Ketchikan since I can remember, but I've skated the streets here, and I've gone through at least 10 boards, bearings, trucks, all that, and that takes its toll, but we need a facility that we can actually do this, that it's acceptable there, because there's a lot of areas that we can skate, but it's not allowed to skate there, so thank you for your time and your support.
I just wanted to say as well that it's very, very nice and refreshing to see so many people here to support something and show your support, because often as council members, if we don't hear from people and get other sides of the story, so to speak, or other input, it's hard to make decisions on things. And just your show of support today is really welcomed and very commendable. Thank you so much.
Bobby McCrary, 724 Bayview. I've been on a skateboard once. My son is 48. He still skateboards. He was here for a while and commented that there wasn't much opportunity to skateboard safely in Ketchikan. Kind of beside the point. The point that I would really like to make is that Ketchikan Youth Initiatives was formed in 2005. And since then, the city has, when they have been able to do so, been very supportive of programs for our youth. And as you know, the first one that we started was the paintball field. And the city, with the port in particular, has helped us with surplus orange barricades and recently with some chips from the landfill, which is just awesome. The biggest thing, of course, was your donation of a piece of property that might have been torn down by now, the old water warehouse. And if you've driven past it lately, you'll see that it's coming along. The siding is on, the windows are in, and it's happening, and it's taking time, and that's okay. The skate park is something that people worked on long before I even moved to Ketchikan. And when we appeared in front of the borough for the final approval of the grant agreement that gave us the land and the money, a gentleman stood up and said, I was here 15 years ago. He says, I'm a little bit older now. He's in his mid-30s, I think, maybe. But he says, this is something we need to do. And we have spent a lot of time, and a lot of people over time have come and gone and been involved and consistently looked at what the value of what a skate park can do for Ketchikan. It's been commented by other people that there are athletes that are not the basketball or the swimmers, but they're athletes. I mean, think about snowboarding with the Olympics now. We have people in our community, and one I think of right now is Craig Jackson, who's off in college, but he has the ability to be a professional skateboarder. So it's just another sport. It's another opportunity. The beautiful thing about how everybody has worked together to give this piece of property is that families can come, and some can be at baseball, and some can be in the Parks and Rec Center, and some can be skateboarding, you know. So we're very, very excited about the location and how that will all work. And we really appreciate your looking carefully at what we've asked for some help with moving the power lines in particular. We also understand that the city's finances are tight. And we know that you've had to cut back on funding for different things that are important. So we are very, very sensitive to that. And we're trying to find a way to pay for the things that are cash out of pocket and then maybe ask for services that are available from you. So as Bob mentioned, we'll be here later. And I really appreciate all you guys coming out. And thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. Dick, you have a question?
Yeah, let me ask a couple of questions while everybody's here.
Sure.
I want to thank Bob for providing the information, because this is the first time I've seen a conceptual thing on this, because otherwise it was a blank lot up there and it meant nothing to me. And one of the questions I asked you, Bob, when you called me was, I'm going to call it a business plan. And this is sort of part of one where it says you've got this amount of money to do this, this, and this in your plans. But a couple of more detailed questions. One, the source of the first item on there, the $165,000, is that total borough?
Bobby could answer.
Yeah, if you don't mind, yeah, that would be great. These items are not directly aligned with sources, but the sources are $150,000 from the borough, a $75,000 grant donation that we have in hand from a local citizen, and a $15,000 foundation grant that has been dedicated for the roof. But the point of this is that there is enough we have fully funded the project. So it's not going to be like the water warehouse that is going to take us, 4 or 5 years as we worked through the recession and all the grants that were held up and so forth. It is fully funded. And one of the reasons that the borough kind of went to KYI to do this is that through the first part of our discussions, every time they looked at it, they were going to be spending most of their budget of $150,000 on things that they had to do that were going to cost so much more than if they could turn it over to us to do. So, long story short, this is a fully funded project, not with the roof, of course, but with the phase 1.
Okay, and so it's fully funded down, not the roof, and there's something future there, but now my next question is, who's going to maintain this? Because invariably, this government helps build something, and then we're back and we're asking for, I need to operate it.
Okay.
So we need to have that in hand, otherwise it's a 100-year project. Hopefully you can use it for 100.
Prior to the time that the final grant agreement was worked out and initiated and signed with the borough, there was an agreement first in committee and then a show of hands type of agreement with the borough that an annual operating grant would be available to take the place of what they would have had to do if it had been their skate park that they were going to be maintaining. Now the interesting part is our cost is $7,000 and theirs was closer to $25,000. And I'll tell you why ours is $7,000. There's a lot of work also that's been done to determine that a concrete skate park is the right answer. And if you have any awareness, you know that there's one in Sitka, and you know that there's a couple of other concrete parks around, but north and in Juneau, we have some with wood and others that they can't use year-round. A concrete park takes only to maintain at the most, once a year, a coating of a sealant, and that sealant costs around $600. And I've had lots of discussions with the Sitka Parks and Rec person. They went for 3 years before they put their first one on. We have a formal users group that Bob will talk more about that will be the source of labor, and this is really important because the people that use it need to own it and be the ones that take care of it. Landscaping and other items like that will also be like volunteers. The remainder of that money goes, for instance, to insurance, because normally this would be done by a government entity. It would fall, as I know as an insurance professional, automatically under their blanket policy with no problem, but we've had to insure it separately, and there is one market in the United States, and it's in New York, and we have a current quote, and that's good. So the costs of maintaining are very minimal. If at some time in the future there would be built a shed or something, then that would take some maintenance possibly. Bob has mentioned and talked with your public works people about the fact that you're doing some work on Schoen Bar, and that might lead to putting in a water stub and a sewer stub just in case that was ever needed. When we get to the roof, it's a really big discussion. It would be beautiful to have a wood roof. That's not a good thing from a maintenance side. Sitka has one that is built with metal and glass or plastic. And so when I talked with some people like Mary Hendrickson, she said, you can put wood around the concrete. You can find a way to put beauty into it and still make it practical. So I do want to assure you that we've looked very, very seriously at what the obligation would be And who would be taking it over a long period of time, long after I'm gone, Bob's gone, and was it possible to do? Some people have been concerned about vandalism, and the park in Wasilla did have trouble with people spray painting, and they had to resolve that. I think there's some wonderful ideas that our contractor has to make this very artistic and beautiful. Most of the parks, Juneau's gone up and down with that, have not had problems with vandalism. So, anyway, that's a long answer, Dick. I'm sorry, but I get all wrapped up in this.
Anybody else? Dick? Okay.
No, I'm good.
All right, thank you very much, everybody, for coming.
Thank you all.
All right, that brings us down to Steve Corcoran.
Port and Harbors Director Steve Corcoran. I'll make this very brief. I'll be back here in a couple of weeks with hopefully the final change order for the berth 1 and 2 project. But I wanted to let you know that we did take delivery of the dock on time last week and of the building yesterday. I picked up the keys tonight. They're going to have their KVB is going to be hosting with Char the wine tasting event tomorrow night. But when we were given this project, the direction I got from the council, especially from Councilmember Bergeron, who's not here, is that we don't want another berth 3, which I was not on board for when it was designed. This building is the anti-berth 3 once you get inside and see it. It's a very handsome building, lots of wood. But I just want to give a public thank you while it's still fresh in our minds to the general contractor West and their major sub Hartman for the building, but also Tongass Forest Enterprises that supplied all of the yellow cedar and red cedar trim and siding both outside and inside. And yes, there's trim and siding inside when you get in there. It's very beautiful. First City Electric, Ketchikan Mechanical, Channel Seamless Gutter, Advanced Communications, Ketchikan Lock and Key, Hummingbird did a good job cleaning the last couple of nights, Tyler, Madison, Sader Concrete, Sign Pro, the city departments from Streets, KPU Telecom, KPU Power, Eddystone Rock, my staff, wastewater staff, KPU Water, and I know I might forget somebody, the design team with P&D and Stephen Peters Architects over here. But it was a major effort to bring this building and dock in on time, and we did. And you're going to be really pleased. We're still fine-tuning a few things. Tomorrow they're hopefully setting the lights in the base for the statue out there. And we're tweaking a few things here and there. And we still have 2 winters to go. So people say, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? We still got stuff to do in the next 2 winters. But I'm very proud of the teamwork that came together to bring this thing in on time. And you're going to like the product. I know you are. So thank you.
Very much.
Thanks for the support.
Yeah. All right, that brings us down to Char White. Char White.
Good evening. I'm Char White, and I'm at 192 Raspberry. I'm here to speak on your item 7A, which is the permit for the block party for the First City Homeless Shelter. I'm a member of the board of the First City Homeless Shelter. We have been given an opportunity for a challenge grant with Wells Fargo Bank, and what we have proposed doing is putting on a block party geared toward the young people, helping to bring awareness towards homelessness within Ketchikan. And what we're asking is to have Main Street blocked off. It would be from Dock, not all the way up to the next street, but just to the driveway of KPD, so we're not going to be impeding on emergency vehicle traffic. The event is scheduled for May 31st from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., so it will be for a very short period of time. And we're planning to have games and face painting and activities like that. And I just really hope that you'll approve of our request to have the street permit.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Doing none? Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us down to Christopher Bennett. Oh, yes, sir.
Letter out to each of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I'm here this evening on the behalf of the new Ketchikan affiliate of the Alaska Community Foundation, and I was recently given the honor of serving on the first advisory board, and so part of my responsibilities within this it's a very new startup for one, and so I'm still learning a whole lot about it myself. I've previously worked with the Alaska Community Foundation just in what I do with estate planning, that sort of thing. But I think that the new Ketchikan affiliate of it will bring some great opportunities to the town in ways that weren't really here before. As a nonprofit organization that can accept donations and very efficiently invest them and return those in the form of grants to this community. What had previously been missing was the ability for any sort of nonprofit that I know of here locally to do that efficiently. So money that was accepted through donations just wasn't being used very efficiently. It would be deposited into CDs or something to that effect, and sometimes you wind up with the situations where administrative fees start eating up the donations themselves, and so the ability of the Community Foundation to invest those along with a lot of other funds in the state and then bring them back home once they're to be returned in the form of grants is a great benefit to this community. And the letter that I've given you is an invite to a meeting on May 16th that I realized as I was sitting here is going to be at the exact same time of your next city council meeting. And so in fact is I'm not going to be able to attend it myself because I have the bar convention up in Juneau that I have to be at that time. But what I'd like to do is this is something that I would really like the city council members to be educated on, and so I'm sure a lot of you know various board members, and my office phone is certainly available for any sort of questions that any of you might have, and I intend to be coming back after I get myself more educated on, so I can hopefully inform the city council on what it is that we can really do for the community.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you guys are continuing the process since they came down here and gave us the last summer on how to get involved and do something like this. I'm just glad there are people that are interested in move forward. So appreciate you coming and keep us informed.
Thank you, sir.
All right, that brings us down to anybody else who want to address the council tonight? Come on up.
Thank you, Mayor Williams and council members. My name is John Clifton. I live in the borough at 8400 South Tongass, and recently I've been reading in the paper and hearing comments that the council's looking at studying SEPA, Southeast Alaska Power Authority, and as a ratepayer and longtime resident that watched with interest as SEPA was probably studied quite considerably before the creation of all the municipalities that took place in it, and came into an organization that I think has worked well. As a ratepayer, I would just, I'm puzzled by why you need to study, and my understanding is that, and correct, I may be incorrect, but if you fund a study to do away with SEPA, then what else do you have to work with? And it is my understanding that on SEPA, when that was formed, it takes all three communities to vote to change it or dissolve it, and that at least one of the communities has already stated that they're against it. Therefore, it seems to me as a ratepayer, taxpayer funded study that can't change something is probably not the best use of the money, and so I'd hope to use the money wisely, and just want to let you know that there are some people out there that are happy with SEPA the way it is. I'm happy that when I turn the lights on, they go on. Yeah, I'm frustrated when they're not on, but you go out and KPU's crews out there, so I take them thermoses of coffee because because we want to work together and keep this thing working. It takes all of us to make the community, and I think SEPA is a good part of it, so.
Thank you very much, John.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else want to address the council tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to the agenda. That brings us down to the consent agenda. The only ones I had mentioned or thought to add would be under new business 7A1, request for the block party, 7A3, the budget transfer for the lease over there at the Redmond Hall, and B3, resolution proposed refinancing the municipal bonds. Does anybody have any objection? Seeing none, we'll add those three. Do we have a motion for to consent?
Your Honor?
Go ahead.
Just a question on Redmond. Since I'm a member, should that be pulled out and voted on separately, or?
Nope. Okay, perfect. Do we have a motion to consent?
I move to consent.
Second. Madam Clerk, can you read the items?
Approval of the minutes, regular meeting of April 18th, 2013. Resolution number 132506, amending the 2013 General Government Annual Budget, Wastewater Division, $192,000, and Fire Department, $160,765. A budget transfer, UAS Library Division, surplus of Medic 11 ambulance. Change order number 1 final to contract 1249-420 Water Street abatement and demolition, Pool Engineering, Inc. Exempting the procurement of automated meter reading meters from competitive bidding, written quotations. Resolution number 132507, amending the 2013 Ketchikan Public Utilities Annual Budget, Water Division, $208,000. Declaring personal property as surplus, Telecommunications Division. Request for a block party for City Homeless Services. Budget transfer, extension of lease agreement between the City of Ketchikan and the approved Order of Redmond. Resolution number 132502, proposed refinancing of municipal utility revenue refunding bond Series V.
All right. Anybody have a question? Call the roll.
Harris?
Aye.
Coos?
Yes.
Severson?
Yes.
West?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
No, same.
No, same. All right, that passes 6-0. That brings us down to unfinished business, General Government 6A1, request for waiver of general government and KPU costs and fees associated with proposed skate park Ketchikan Youth Initiative, deferred from February 21st. Do we have a motion?
Is there a motion on the table?
I'll let you know in 2 seconds. So is that motion on the table? The move of the City Council direct the City Manager to respond, devise, up. All right, speak to the motion, Bob.
Okay. I would.
Yeah, that motion would be on the table.
It is on the table. All right.
Deferred, yeah.
Mhm.
All right, thank you.
Sorry.
Doing some of the math on this thing, it looks like there's about $39,000 of in-kind service that they're requesting. Part of that, if I remember, Carl, is sewer and water.
That's about 10,000 of labor. That's correct.
And that, we didn't get any money this year for that particular road project, so.
We had it, and then it was taken away.
Yeah, yeah. And so, really, realistically, that could probably be taken out of this, because that probably won't happen for a while. And if at such time they want to put utilities, water and sewer utilities in there, that would be handled as a normal digging a right-of-way permit, and have contractors probably prefer to do that. So, when we look at the numbers that we're speaking about, I think that we probably should back out the sewer and water at this time. Since it's not going to be available through any project in the near future that I see. Also, when you look at the cost of materials, I think there's something in here about the ordinance where they would pick up that cost. It's $4,500. And if you're still using the 39, that's about 12% of the total cost of the utilities. Now, I had an opportunity to go up and talk to KPU and Mr. Donato. And Andy, would you kind of back here someplace? Yeah, would you come up and kind of tell us how that project would roll if we were to do the pole, the transferring of wires and pole? What's exactly going to be involved in it for your crew? Thank you.
Well, thank you. Good evening, members of the council. Yeah, Andy Donato, Systems Engineer, Manager, KPU Electric. Well, the way we were told, I guess there's one pole that's over on that side of the street at this point, and that would be moved on the other side towards the ballpark, and that pole then would also have to be guyed. So that was the only issue there, is the guy wire interfering with any other activity. But other than that, very simplistic. So I don't know what any other detail you wanted, but very simplistic to drill and move the pole, and of course the wire. It was on that side at one time, got moved over, now it'd be going back. Is that?
Yeah, and it's just in our costs, it's just labor for the crew basically to go out and
exactly
put this thing together, and that would fit in the schedule someplace probably fairly easily. You think?
Very easily. Yeah, we don't see any problems there.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments? Dick?
Yeah, I guess the one was where Andy was leading is he says he can fit that in with his workload, and it seems like everybody's busy, but I guess the same thing may follow up on the telecommunications division, which is $16,621 is the estimate versus the electric side was only about $8,000. So I wonder if Carl could have somebody from the electric division tell us what the impact is on getting that telephone, get that done.
We'll bring it up.
Good evening, Ed Cushing, Telecommunications Division Manager. Well, essentially we are having to move or relocate some fiber optic cable and some copper cable, and in the process we actually have to not just move some but replace some. So as with electric, it's a relatively simple project, but it's a bit time consuming, and between the labor and material works out, loaded labor I should mention, and material works out to about $19,000. That's the essence of it.
You say 19 versus 16?
Did I say 19? I mean, well, I think subtotaled out to about 19. Total labor was 16, and total material was $3,000.
Deanne, did you have a question?
What did you just mention about loaded?
Oh, it's not just straight time labor. The calculation is labor plus benefits, overheads. The term of art is loaded labor.
So it's just the labor and
material.
But the benefits are taxes, retirement.
Sure, pension, what have you. Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, loaded labor typically is your straight time cost of labor plus any benefits that the employees receive as part of their compensation. That's a very normal way of calculating this stuff. You have your true cost of labor isn't $12 an hour. Your true cost is, $20 an hour. So that's the way it's calculated.
Yeah. How does that fit in with your workload? Because this is something that just looks like it's going to have to be done within the next couple of months. So, yeah. I mean, this has got to be a week or better of somebody's work.
If the council tells us to do it, we'll get it done.
Okay.
Yep. That's exactly.
Matt has a question.
I don't have a question.
Oh,
okay.
Thanks, Ed.
Comment.
Comment, sir.
All right, thank you. This is, I think, an incredibly worthwhile project and one we should just move on and support. The school that I teach at focuses on social action and community involvement, and this was one of two ideas that the class came up with to raise money for. It came in second in the vote, lost by 1, out of a class of 23. It was on the minds of the 5th and 6th graders, and I think if it's on the minds of the 5th and 6th graders at Tonga School, it's on the minds of a lot of children. I think it's one we should just openly support and move forward because it's in the betterment for our community.
Thank you. KJ.
I just wanted to mention that I'm fully in support of the skate park. Anything we can do to get it going, because if nothing else, 5 months out of the year they can't use our docks because we're using them to make money. And there are so many places in town that have signs up: no skateboards, no skateboards, no bike riding, no nothing. These people have done a heck of a lot of work, not just these two people, but everybody involved. And I think over the 30 years that I've been here, all I hear about, there's no place for the kids. There's no place for the kids. Well, now we have a good opportunity to have a place for the kids, and I think we should support it fully. That's all.
Ian?
I was impressed by the numbers on the information that they gave us, because that's a lot of money, and that money is being spent here locally. Now, I know that some of the providers on that list aren't local, and it's just a matter of fact that they can't find that kind of service locally. But when you look at it, they're expending a lot of money here locally, and I think about economic development and the things that we're trying to do to keep our economy viable. And, you know, they're looking at $150,000 down the road for a roof. I mean, that's a nice chunk of change for a local contractor and his crew someday. And I'm just pleased to see that those opportunities are built into that project. It's a great project for the kids. It's skate park is wonderful, but there's also the side benefit in that, you know, those dollars are being spent here locally, and I think we can all agree that any money that stays here is good for all of us.
Anybody else? Dick?
Yeah, I think this is really a nice project, and there's going to be use made of it. But I think as we move forward, we need to keep in mind that, once again, it's kind of a project that's we normally give to nonprofits, and this is not our normal sequence, and it's probably 10% of what we would give out as a total. And the other thing is, it was mentioned by the folks that came up and others that we got the rec center, and we got the swimming pool, and we got this, and this serves the swimmers, and this serves the basketball players. Well, who's next? And it's taxpayer money, and we're the ones responsible for laying it out. Like I say, I'm not against it, but remember, every time we set a precedent, who's next? And it could be $35,000, it could be $150,000 for a roof. So I think that as we move forward with this, we should definitely not do the water. But the other part of it, I mean, it's a good project. It just is, how deep do we stick our foot into the tar baby?
Okay, so what I have so far is we're going to back out the sewer and water since it's not applicable at the moment. The only other question I have, Carl, is on, anybody have any concern about parking? I've only had one call on that. It takes away a bit of parking. Is there any other way we can put some parking over there, up the road?
We can look at it, Mr. Mayor. I don't have an immediate answer for you tonight.
Okay.
The other thing, how I intend to approach this, assuming the motion passes, we'll tally up the work once it's completed, and then we'll bring you the appropriate budget transfers such that general government can reimburse KPU for its share of the work.
Thank you. Matt?
Yeah, I don't like the idea of backing out the water. I think it's important for us to commit to that now, so that they know that there's $10,000 when they're going and trying to find the funds to do it in the future, that it's going to be taken care of. Or if they don't have it for the restroom to put in until a year later, that we can just go ahead and we've committed to it. So I'm not sure if I like that. I understand that we can commit to it now and build it into the project when the project's done. But
Bob?
I think that there's a park and rec facility right next door at the Little League that does have restrooms right now. I think the original request is with the thought that when Schoenbar is reconstructed, that we would just add the piping necessary to access that lot. And that may still happen when we get into that project. But if it has to be done sometime at a later fact outside of that type of a project, then there's permits and other things that they'll have to do. I think that they can come back at that time and talk.
baseball restrooms are only open while the baseball facilities are being utilized. So, and I'm just also saying that if we commit to it now, we know later on when we get to that water project that we need to do that, and I think it's an important aspect for us to continue.
Hey, who on the council wants to back the water and sewer out? Give me a hand. We got 1, 2. We shall not back the water and sewer out. All right. Anybody else before I call the main motion? Call the roll.
West?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Bergeron, oh, sorry. Harris,
A resounding yes.
Severson,
Yes.
Coos.
Okay.
Okay, that passes 6-0. That brings us down to 7A2, classification and compensation plan update, Ralph Anderson Associates. Do we have a motion?
Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I move the City Council direct the City Manager to negotiate a professional service agreement with Ralph Anderson and Associates for the update to the city classification and compensation plan based on a full update option and a one-day site meeting as detailed in Doug Johnson correspondence dated April 22nd, 2013 at a cost not to exceed $35,200. And said agreement to be submitted to the City Council for formal consideration and approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Bob?
Yeah, I think that the recommendation that we just go ahead and do the full update is reasonable, and at this time, with the timing, as long as we've been in this plan, it's probably appropriate.
Dick, anybody?
Just a comment, as this comes back, I'd like to make sure that draft copies come to the borough clerk or the city clerk so that we can see them as a draft and haven't been dealt with.
Yeah, my only concern is if we do approve this tonight and they do this compensation thing, we don't have to live by it. We can slowly move into it. We can do different things. I just don't want us to do like we did last time. We came back and they hammered it through and it cost us $2 million in 1 year. And I don't want to go there. Anybody else? Bob?
Carl, as part of this study, would they come back with some kind of a recommendation on how to implement it, considering the economics? Can we make that a part of the plan?
We can ask them to do that, and I will get a response for you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Call the roll. We're waiting on you.
No. Severson.
Yes.
Coos.
Yes.
Harris.
Aye.
Olson.
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
That passes 6-0. That brings us down to 7A4, ordinance 13-1724, amending the Ketchikan Municipal Code relating to sales tax exemption for healthcare and funeral services, first reading. We have a motion.
Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I move the City Council approve in first reading ordinance number 13-1724, amending Section G of the Ketchikan Municipal Code, Section 3.04.100, entitled Exemptions related to the tax exemptions for health care and funeral services establishing an effective date.
Moved and seconded. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I think that we can ask Mr. Newell to step up and kind of give us a brief overview on how he sees this working out.
What we're trying to do here is provide a better definition in the sales tax code regarding the exemption of these items. The Borough Assembly has already adopted a similar ordinance, and they've asked the city to do the same so that the city tax code and the borough sales tax code will be identical. It makes it much easier for the borough staff to administer when both codes contain the same definition.
Do we have a cost in that?
There's no cost associated with this. So basically, from our point of view, these type of services have been exempt for quite some time. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Call the roll.
Coos.
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Harris.
Aye.
Severson.
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
All right, that passes 6-0. Brings us down to new business 7B1, draft Swan Lake operations maintenance budget for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2014. Do we have a motion?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dick.
I move the city council approve the draft Swan Lake operations maintenance budget in the amount of $834,100 for fiscal year ending June 30, 2014, and authorize the general manager and electric division manager to present their proposed spending plan to the Southeast Alaska Power Agency.
Moved and seconded. Anything you want to add?
I've just got a couple of questions that either Andy or the manager can help me with. On page 133 of our iPad, the employee benefit cost, it seems like proportion to their increase in wages, that's a high one. And I'm looking at lines 5,000 or 500-1 up there, Andy, at the top. The wages, salaries and wages went up about 25,000, but employee benefits went up, I'm saying around 40,000. It seems like the proportion is funny, so just, it may be real, but look at it as you do it before you turn it in.
Yeah, the comment I had on that was we didn't roll those in the previous budget developments, and so then that was a late realization, and then we added that in. So, but those are real costs. And
so they were not in the 184,000 from last year.
Correct.
Okay. Then I guess my other comments mainly run back to. Let's see here. It's under where there's a bunch of big projects.
The R&R stuff?
Are we submitting those to SEPA, or are those just going to be on the SEPA agenda?
I already submitted the proposed R&R projects on that list, okay. And I did it in their format 2 Fridays ago. And I just want you to know that already that has changed since I submitted this, and the reason being is because one of those is a tough boom, I think, the last project you see there. And it makes no sense to put the a new tough boom in along with anchor bolts with the proposed dam raise and the higher inundation area. So that would be redone once that's accomplished. And so that project would wait until the mobilization is there to drill the holes and mount. All right, so you can take that one out. So that reduces that. The other issue is there's a camera. So it's a camera that looks across to Swan Lake from the dam, so we call it a dam camera. And and there's no reason for us to wait till fiscal 2014, so we're going to implement that here ASAP. The dam camera is already in the office at headquarters, so as soon as we can get out there and mount it, we'll do that. So that'll be removed.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Lou, if I could. I was just trying to get a little clarification on those well, 6 or 8 projects, just what they are. I guess miscellaneous items, and you're going to work this out with Steve anyway, but that's a lot of housing appliances for 10 grand. The roof, I assume the roof is a problem, and I don't remember what it looked like in there when we were out there last Wednesday, but.
Well, you couldn't see the roof from that angle. You'd have to get up on it. They have some leaks, and so that these would be addressed. So the only, I'm sorry, the only other thing.
Keep going.
Yeah, the only other thing I can say for the rest of the council, there's basically 2 budgets. You probably know the cycle, but we have our own budget format that we use to develop. And then this gets translated to the SEPA format. They both serve different purposes. The SEPA format, when done, is more of an executive overview, 20,000-foot overview, and it doesn't necessarily show the detail that we have in our development. So in our early development, for instance, it makes a difference whether we put fuel in the excavator or fuel in the four-wheeler. In the overall SEPA budget, it doesn't. I think that all gets rolled into a particular FERC code. So you have to drill down to see these individual charges. So we do this, and then we compare with the SEPA FERC codes, and we did a different job this year. This year we collaborated along with SEPA. There's 6 of us. So myself, Tim, and Stan Agreter, along with Kay, Trey, and Steve Henson, and we developed all this, and we also have cheat sheets that translate the 2, and so we did all that prior to us issuing this, so we've laundered most of that out. The other thing I do want to mention, it's the 4th consecutive year of a budget decrease. So contrary to one of these studies indicated that maybe increasing O&M costs, this one is the 4th straight year now of a budget decrease. So I'm pretty proud of that.
Any other questions for Andy?
Yeah, one more. Help me understand the need for the storage building for 350 grand.
We had that in a budget a couple of years ago, And then as that building started taking shape and you wanted to add this, that, and the other, it got to the point where it was too expensive and then it got cut. So we're reproposing the building with its original dirt floor, and then it turns out for that amount of money, the floor actually was a concrete floor. And the reason for it is we have a lot of machinery there. The new excavator is probably the latest entry. There's an additional boat there. There's discussion of getting yet another boat. That one will most likely stay in the water for the most part, but when it does come on a trailer. So the issue is we have a lot of machinery, and when they have to wrench on it, it's nice to get it into a building or facility where it's dry, and they need that additional building.
Is this heated?
No, I don't. This would not be heated.
Did you say it is going to have a concrete floor or not?
Yes.
Anything else, Dick? Bob?
And you also have a equipment shed out there that you'll probably utilize for more storage of materials that's already heated. Is that correct? You have a warehouse out there now?
There is a garage out there now. Yes.
Heated, right?
Yes, there is also a maintenance garage. It's very well heated and very well, but that's pretty full right now. It also has the emergency generators in it. There's 2 generators, one for the camp, one for the powerhouse, and they're located in that building as well.
I'm all for getting equipment out of the weather if we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Looks like that's it.
Thank you.
All right. Call the roll.
Carlson?
Yes.
Harris?
Aye.
Olson?
Yes.
West?
Yes.
Severson?
Yes.
Coos?
Yes.
All right. That passes 6-0. That brings us down to item 7B2, motion to rescind action with respect to the memorandum of understanding between Ketchikan, Petersburg, and Wrangell regarding individual ownership of SEPA projects. Councilmember Coos. Dick?
I move the city council rescind the action with respect to the memorandum of understanding between the cities of Ketchikan, Petersburg, and Wrangell regarding an analysis of the future sale of individual projects to the member communities and the future deposition of the Southeast Alaska Power Agency that was taken at the council meeting of April 4, 2013.
Do we have a second? Moved and seconded. Dick, go first.
Yeah, I guess I felt that it was prudent for us to bring this back to the agenda, especially on the basis of what Senator Stedman said at the chamber meeting, I think about the 17th or thereabouts of April, and Deanne heard it, the manager heard it, they were both there with myself, and I think Senator Stedman made it pretty clear that it wasn't really a prudent, I'll say, political move to break this all up, that we've got better chances of gaining what we need for Southeast in the way of power to work as a group of communities rather than as individual communities. And he went on to say more about it, and I've got a clip of that if somebody wants me to play it. I can kick it through the system, but let's have the discussion. I think it's not prudent use of our money, and as John Clifton said, to do this. So that's my proposal.
Thanks, Dick. After the secret meeting, the last board meeting that we're all at, I was pretty much in favor of going ahead and doing the following what Dick wanted to do here. But then I did get a hold of the MOU, which then had me call the city attorney, and then I called Mr. Weinstein, former mayor, who was a part of this. And from reading at least my interpretation, and everybody else can let me hear theirs, this was done, and this would be something that would happen by December 31st, 2014. So from what I gather, if we don't do it now, we need to proceed with this later. After talking to Mayor Weinstein, or former Mayor Weinstein, who was a part of this, he said this was the part where Wrangell wanted that to make this go. They had to put that in there to get Wrangell to sign on. So I don't know, can we just disallow the MOU and say the heck with it or not, I guess is the question. But this is the way we signed on. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, again, it's a memorandum of understanding. It's not like a binding contract. The way I understand it, a council at that particular time can't bind this council at the present time. It was again, I think, to appease Wrangell at that particular juncture, and I guess if power rates were going crazy or something was broken, it gave them an opportunity to look at it to see if there was a need to get out of it. And at this particular time, I don't see that, but I don't believe that we're obligated to follow this at this time.
Carl, you signed it, didn't you, for us? Very on the spot.
I did, Mr. Mayor, and I did so at the request of former Mayor Weinstein. My views on this are known. I really don't want to get into an extended debate.
We don't want to
It's a council decision.
Wait, I'm just wondering what, when you signed this and we came up, were we finding ourselves to doing
It
this?
was my understanding, as you reiterated earlier, that this was a consideration that was given to the city of Wrangell such that they would move forward with the divestiture documents at that time. And that's all I can add.
Well, just, I mean, we signed this, and I remember that it came to, back in my memory, that's how we got them to get on board on this, because they were very antsy. So and if we don't do it now, I think at least we have to take some look at it, or get it started by December 31st, 2014, since we all did sign on to this. It doesn't have to be dramatic. I'm not looking to be finding it to be something that anybody's going to want to do, but we still have an MOU, and we did commit to a community who was very leery of signing on to get them to sign on. So that's my only comments. Deanne, then Bob.
Is it my understanding still that Petersburg is not in favor of moving forward with something?
We'll find out at their first meeting in May here, which I'm not sure what day it is this week.
It just seems like if all three entities signed on to it, it would seem that if it is binding, that all three entities would be taking part in it.
Well, I think, I'd hope that at the next SEPA meeting, this would be something that would be at least talked about from our representatives, Bob and Dick. And 'cause I'd love to know what the SEPA board thought. Anybody else? Matt, then Bob.
I don't see this as anything that's going to harm SEPA. I interpreted the agreement the same way you did, Mr. Mayor. I think at this point, it's only prudent that we take a look at the organization and see if there are changes that we need to take, whether, and I don't see it being one that the organization is going to go away. I see it as one that we need to look at the health of the organization and see if it can be expanded or if it needs to be contracted a little bit, or if the status quo. But we can't do that unless we have information. And many of you were very aware of how I felt about signing on to the hospital agreement for a period of 10 years under the gun. We didn't have any time to really review it and look at it. We had to move relatively quickly. I would rather have this information in our hand with plenty of time to look at it and analyze it than wait until November or December and then make a rash decision, or one that isn't done with a good, solid study in our hands.
Bob?
Yeah, I think, again, this is up to the individual community. Wrangell, by their notice, has said that they're willing to go ahead and do a study. And again, I don't know that it would be, if you put money into this thing, you got to consider that all three communities have to sign on to that, and I get no indication that Petersburg is interested in that time. And I know that there's a certain faction of the city of Ketchikan that may not. In talking with AEA in the past and at different meetings, when this came about, they said, up north, all the utilities are coming together in order to get funding to move projects ahead, and for the communities here in southeast to move away from their unity under SEPA now would be a step backwards. And that's my concern, is what the impression they're going to give us when we start looking for monies for our project. I don't, the other thing is if after you do all the study, it still has to go to the SEPA board, and it has to have a unanimous decision in order to move that ahead. All 5 members have to vote affirmative on it. So we could put a bunch of money into a study that would go nowhere. And that's my concern. There's no dollar value in what this study is going to cost us. I have not a clue. I've heard numbers of up to $100,000 because I know that there's, whoever we bring on is gonna have to learn the full operation of SEPA and how it meshes with our different communities, and that's a fairly complicated, long drawn-out process. So, I just don't know which we're spending the money on.
Okay, KJ and then Matt.
I don't know if that's the right time, but Your Honor, I'd like to move to defer this till we have the full council here. So I wanted to hear from Sam before we made any decisions. So I guess that would be a motion to defer.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call the roll.
Severson,
No.
Olson,
Yes.
Carlson,
No.
Coos,
No.
Harris,
Yes.
West.
Okay, motion fails. We're back on. Who is speaking or who wants to speak next? Okay.
Well, he was speaking.
It's your turn.
I
4-2.
42.
Sorry, right in
Go
my
ahead.
nose. I just don't see how, at this point, this is anything other than positive. We have a situation right now where we have disagreements going on between KPU and SEPA. We have disagreements going on between Thomas Bay and SEPA. And if we have an outside agency come in, take a look at the health of all three organizations and the connections between all three organizations, I think that can only strengthen it, because then it's possible we'll have an intermediary for a little bit of time looking at each other and saying, you guys all need to grow up, or one agency needs to grow up, whatever it is, but we can have someone come in and help us. I don't see how this is anything that's really going to drastically change our thing. What I'm looking at is very similar to how we did a good review of our HR department and our HR practices, and we said, how can we do business better? We did that in-house, and to me, this is exactly the same thing.
Deanne and Bob.
I agree, and I hear what Matt is saying, but I just go back to the fact that there's 3 different entities involved with this, and that it really needs to be a consensus of all 3 entities, and for whatever reason, we don't have that now.
Bob?
Well, I think, again, the bottom line breaks down to whatever we look at, we're still at 6.8 cents a kilowatt. And it's been that way for over 15 years. The facilities are up and running and well maintained. We have good staff out at all the facilities. Sure, we're going to have bumps and different things, but like Andy says, the actual sending bolts up and down the line is the easy part. It's everything else that we do outside of that. So I don't think we're as broken as we may seem at times, but I think we're all looking for the interest, and I just don't think we need to spend the money on a study to tell us that we got the cheapest power in the state. Bottom line.
Dick, then me.
Yeah, Lou, I guess from my viewpoint, I'm like Bob. I don't see any reason to spend the money, and I don't really hear anybody sitting around the table there saying, hey, let's go break up SEPA. We're saying let's do a study, which is not probably going to tell us anything that, yeah, we may have some problems, which I think the SEPA board continues to try to work out with all the members anyway. And to me, it's not prudent spending of our money to do this when in the end it's probably going to remain just the same as it is. If it becomes a big issue, then I think the SEPA board will take on a study where we're going. But for me, the line is we've got to keep some grouping of these communities together in order to keep commitment from the legislature to do stuff. And I know that Peggy, at that meeting she went to with us at Swan Lake and looked at it and said this is her, well, relating to Swan Lake, it's her top commitment for money for next year. So I think because SEPA as a group has done a good job and has continued to do a good job, we've got a lot of credibility, and this just continues to create doubt, and that's what Bert clearly said it does. So to me, we're not all full board to just tear it up, and we're wasting our money to try to spend on a study.
Yeah. Well, I understand where you're coming from, Dick, and after that meeting, I've been very comfortable with a lot of the answers I got, and I'm not even thinking about breaking up SEPA. I'm thinking about this MOU. What does it really mean to us? I mean, we all three signed it. And we put that in there so Rangel would sign on and we could get to SEPA, which we never got to. So now Rangel's the one that wants to see us do a little study on it. So I feel sort of committed that we need to be involved and, you know, get some information for him. But since we did do that to get him to sign up to be a part of, so we could have SEPA. So that's the question. And it doesn't even have to be enacted, anything going till December 31st, 2014. And so I don't know. I guess it's just if we uphold the MOU or not. I didn't even know about this until 2 days ago. So that was there. So the end, and then let's make some votes.
How do we get a definitive answer on whether that's something that we need to abide by? I mean, I guess I come back to the fact that Petersburg's not stepping up and asking for any of this stuff, so they signed it as well.
I mean, if nobody wants to do it, Rangel can scream, and I don't know what they could do.
But how do you get a definitive answer as to whether that is something that we need to adhere to?
Well, we can talk to a lot of lawyers. Bob, do you want to continue?
Yeah, Rangel can continue on if that's what their thing is. Any single community can do that study, and I think that, and they may very well. And again, some of the information I got, they may not. But again, I just didn't see any use in going there.
Well, I understand. I just
I know.
I hate that. I mean, we signed an MOU and we agreed to it. Carl put his signature to it. Doesn't mean anything. Yeah.
If we don't do it now, though, we can come back at a later time and decide.
It says by December 31st, 2014, no later. Go ahead, Bob.
Mitch. You're our legal beagle. Can you come up here and talk to us a little bit? Memorandums of understanding. How do those work in regards to binding contracts?
Well, in the general sense, I don't know that it's much more than using a different title. I mean, there just seems to be some trend that people call things memorandum of understandings that have the same hallmarks as a contract.
Are they as binding? You know, what do you think? I don't know.
It's
because
how it's labeled, I don't think necessarily determines if it's binding or not. You have the whole notion of the process that led up to the agreement, what the parties intended at the time, the formalities that may be required or may or may not have been observed. If the terms of the contract are sufficient that the court would be willing to enforce it. You know, a whole host of questions like that. I don't think the mere label answers those questions one way or the other.
And how about counsel at that time obligating a counsel at this time?
I think typically they could. There's not a real on an agreement. There's not on an agreement like this between governments. I don't know if there's a hard and fast outward deadline other than it should be a reasonable one. You know, for what it's worth, and a number of council members have hit on it, I think one of the unknowns is what Petersburg's thing should be done, and how Rangel reacts to the fact that Petersburg and or Ketchikan may not be wanting to do it, or at least don't want to do it at this time. I also think on the nature of this that you'd probably need to take a closer look at what was understood at the time and what was what the intent was at the time. We really only got about one operative paragraph. To me, to get from here to there, you know, it's going to take some effort and some filling in on the details, I think.
Yeah, it's not very clear, and it has no cost associated with it or anything, so it's a tough one to get your arms around as far as being a detailed agreement as to how this thing is supposed to proceed.
You know, but those kind of issues are floating around. As I understand, the effect of the pending motion, if it passed, would be, in essence, we have not really done anything as of yet, one way or the other. You know, as well pointed out, you've got a three-party agreement, and one, and considering Ketchikan, possibly two, aren't even sure what they want to be doing at this juncture. I personally would be interested to see
what type of communication there is from Petersburg, and really what type of communications take place between the three bodies now that the issue's been teed up. I'm not aware of a lot of detailed discussion or anything other than some, simple business type letters going back and forth.
Thanks, Mitch.
That helps.
Well, before we call the roll, I was part of the council that agreed to part of this. It had to jog my memory. I remember that we added this on there before just the reason to get Wrangle to sign on, so I'm going to at least stick with supporting, looking at something like this. I doubt it. I mean, I not in any way, shape, or form think SEPA's ever going to break up, but we did did this on the part of the community wrangle. So let's call the roll.
Harris?
Clarify again what we're voting on.
We're rescinding the motion.
No. I was just making sure I was on the right one.
Coos?
Yes.
Severson?
Yes.
West?
Yes.
Carlson?
But we have until
That December 2014.
to get more feedback from communities.
Yes.
Yes.
Olson?
No.
Okay, it passes 4-2. That brings us down to vouchers. Ketchikan Daily News, 1,000.
No, we still have a change order.
Oh, sorry. V4, change order 2, contract 1229, Whitman Lake Hydro Project, Dawson Construction. Do we have a motion?
7B4?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Your Honor,
Go ahead.
I move the City Council approve change order number 2 in the amount of $210,306.41 to contract number 1229 Whitman Lake Hydro Project General Construction between the City of Ketchikan, DBA Ketchikan Public Utilities, and Dawson Construction, Inc. Authorized funding from the Electrical Division, Whitman Lake Hydro Project Capital Account, and direct the General Manager to execute the change order on behalf of the City Council.
Moved and seconded. Bob, do you want to say anything?
Geotech work, geotech work, geotech work. The simple fact that we draw up these plans, we make a plan, and we go out there and do the whatever, the ground isn't right, and we end up, I think, pretty much the majority of this change order is to relocate the building till we get on better ground. Is that right? Yeah. So,
all right, thank you.
I think work at the beginning of the project is really important, and that's that geotech work.
Call the roll.
West?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Harris?
Aye.
Severson?
Yes.
Coos?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 6-0. Brings us down to vouchers. Ketchikan Daily News, 1,187.38. We have a motion.
Your Honor,
Go
I
ahead.
move to approve vouchers to the Ketchikan Daily News in the amount of $1,187.38.
We have a second.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
West?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Harris?
Aye.
Severson?
Yes.
Coos?
Yes.
And that passes 6-0. That brings us down to manager's report. Carl, do you have anything to add?
Just one, Mr. Mayor. We anticipate Dawson beginning to mobilize next week. They're staging and construction. Trailer will take about a third of the parking lot across from the police station. One of their first items of business will be to take down the canopy out front. When that's completed, they will start erecting staging and beginning to wrap the building. If all 4 sides are wrapped concurrently, you will have a white fabric in the front and black fabric on the other 3 sides. It will be mesh on the 3. And I anticipate it's going to be quite the spectacle for the summer. So parking will be short. So.
Go ahead.
In regards to this particular project, I know that we're going to use lay-down areas here in the back of the building and across in the parking lot. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Carl, can we change Main Street to permit parking for the period, for the duration of the project? We have a lot of employees that park over there, and I think it's going to make it very tight on them. And we would gain those parking spaces back maybe if we were to allow them to do it on that section of Main Street.
I'd like the opportunity just to review it real quickly with
Sure.
the
Yeah,
Public Works
absolutely.
Director and
Yeah.
Police Chief.
But as a suggestion, that might help us out.
Anything else on the stick?
Yeah, Lou, relating to that same topic, last meeting, Sam and I were both really concerned about this concrete siding we're putting on, especially the side here in the back, and we asked about some evaluation of metal, and all we got was, well, we looked at it and that was the end of the story. And I still think, and if I recall in the minutes here at the meeting of the 16th, they were still evaluating what, when, and where. And can we get some type of
The substitute siding, and I don't know, Morgan's here. I cannot pronounce the name of it. Maybe you can. But candidly, Councilmember Coos, we're too far gone. We're too far committed. We can't make a substitute change and keep this project on track.
Good choice of words, that we're too far gone.
I agree with
Cliff
that,
Allen,
but
Public
it's a
Works
different
Director.
point.
He was speaking of me, of course. Metal siding, the inherent problem with metal in a coastal town is most, if not all, of the metal siding and roofing manufacturers will not warranty the product when you're here in a salt environment. And we see that over and over with some of our metal roofs and metal products in the area. You don't get a long life. This is called a composite fiber board. The original product, you're calling it a concrete board, but it's a composite. The original product we had, we were all very happy with. Then they pulled out of the North American market, as you're aware. That was Ceraclad. The replacement board, if you will, I might blow this, but I think it's called Nichiha. It's a similar type of product. We were very, very thorough about vetting the performance of this. It came at us really fast when this information came to you guys. We put our architects on that. We did some legwork of our own to make very, very clear that this stuff would hold up in this environment. Wind loading, and more particularly the moisture
And they have verified it's been used in the Alaska market.
Yeah, even in the interior. So we're not worried about temperature, wind, or moisture effects. We're very pleased with the response. The fact is, early on, we just didn't have enough vetting of this product to come forward with full confidence. Metal, on the other hand, and I'll reiterate this, it may look nice, it may be a lot cheaper, but we really cringe at the lack of warranty on that. And I have to reiterate what Manager Amelon said. We're so far along in this process, it's very costly to start to reevaluate and change our plans. Materials are being ordered already.
Well, I hate to be critical, but we're always too far along on a project. And I will remind you that fire hall over there is built out of metal. Shipyard is built out of metal. So I can't buy this business of it ain't gonna hold up when we know this stuff that we had on this wall here didn't hold up. So
All due respect, it's just a shorter life cycle of the siding.
Anything else, Dick?
Not on the manager's report.
Okay. Anybody else? Seeing none, let's move on to City Clerk's file.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to welcome Lorraine Munhoven. It sounds like we've got a position filled that we had vacant for a long time. This will certainly help the division move forward in the central office.
And a local go.
Yeah, isn't that nice?
Anything else? All right. City Clerk's file.
None, Your Honor, unless you want to talk about the
Yes, we do.
July 4th meeting.
July 4th is 4th of July. That's our meeting date.
You meet on the barge.
Where would you guys like to move our meeting?
It has to be within a week.
So, like on the 6th? I mean, no, let's say 4th, 5th.
I would rather probably do it before.
I would.
Yeah. I think Thursday before would probably be best.
What's the Thursday? Well, no, that'd be in May.
Yeah,
I mean, in June. So,
I'm out of town the last 2 weeks of June, and I get back on the 1st of July.
Do it on the other end. I don't know.
How about, what's the 8th, Monday?
That would be a Borough Assembly meeting probably.
No,
Maybe the
it's
first
not.
Monday.
Not on that day. Katie we already talked about that particular Monday.
Well, let's shoot for the 8th on Monday.
Yeah.
Instead
maybe
of doing it on a Thursday, let's do it on Monday. It'd be July 8th.
Monday, July the
8th.
Okay, did the borough have theirs on the previous Monday?
Thought we
It would have
talked.
been first would be.
No, it'd be the first Monday of the month.
Yeah, they do it on the Monday before
Right, then
that.
that Monday, so the 8th is open here.
It has to be within a week.
Well, the 31st is there.
You're in August.
Oh, we're in August. Okay, we're in August.
Let's go back here to July and see if I can.
Okay. All right. We could do it on Monday the 1st. You guys want to do it before 4th of July?
So Monday the 3rd?
Monday the 1st.
The 1st, that is the Borough Assembly meeting then.
Yeah, that would be the borough.
Yeah.
Makes no difference.
Monday the 8th is probably, if that's still a good one.
Okay, let's do the 8th. You guys, we got plenty of time to change it. Yep. So right now we're scheduled for the July the 8th. Thank you, Madam Clerk. City Attorney's file. Future agenda items.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I would like to bring up on a future agenda item the use of the Ted Ferry Civic Center in regards to the fight night situation. Some of the stuff that I'm hearing is that getting out of hand again. I think in the past it did when we talked to them about it and they cleaned it up. But, I'm starting to believe that it's probably the wrong venue for the Ted Ferry Civic Center, and I would like to bring a motion. I'll talk to the clerk about bringing a motion forward to deny the use of that.
Okay. We'll let them know when you want it on the agenda.
Next agenda would be fine with me.
Okay.
Okay. Mayor and council comments. Dick?
Yeah, I've had a couple of phone calls being concerned about how long the diesel surcharge is going to run, and I say for 6 months, and hopefully it doesn't go up anymore. So, and the question also was, are the generators running today? And I don't know. So, are the generators on today or are they off? They're off. Okay, I'll tell them that they're not running today.
Thank you.
I take it the reservoir's going up.
They will be running on the 20th for a planned secret outage.
Planned out for, okay. And that will that raise it a little bit more?
It's going up this month. It's now going to be about 2.2 cents per kWh. As far as going up next month, it kind of depends on how much diesel generation we do in May. I don't know what's going to happen.
We have spent well over $2.5 million.
And the other comment I have is being concerned about, I'll say, the Co-op Relationship Committee and dispatching services, and also hearing about emergency disaster sirens, which the sirens things I've never heard about before until I kind of read about them in the paper, and then I've had several comments about I'll say the city's attitude on dispatching, and I thought that we were sort of headed for maybe raising the rates, and all of a sudden that's off the table. So I guess I'm out of the loop and in the dark. So I'd really like for us to have some type of update on both those projects as they move forward, so that we can make some decisions and give some guidance.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, on the mass notification, Councilmember Cruz, Tsunami Ready, that will be coming probably at your next meeting. We took it to the Cooperative Relations Committee first because we wanted to know if there was interest on the part of the borough to do a borough-wide system, because depending on their response is going to have an impact on our recommendations to the council, and that's why we teed it up there first. We wanted to know if there was some interest on the borough. Relative to the issue of dispatch for North and South Tongass, this has been an issue that has been on again, off again for a number of years. I realize that I may have been short in my remarks last Friday, and I probably should have tempered them better. But the bottom line is, I had extensive talks with Senator Stedman when he was down to talk to the chamber. Given the legislation that's been passed in Juneau this past session, I fully expect that if you think this budget session was tough, the one we just went through for the city, the next 3 or 4 years are going to be even more difficult. And I understand the council's desire not to raise taxes. And I'm going to try to fulfill that as much as I can. But to do that, I've got to position ourselves such that we're getting paid for services that we've traditionally provided to other parts of government at no cost, that the city taxpayers are now subsidizing. Now, if the council doesn't want me to pursue that, I can let it drop right now, if that's the direction you want to give me, but I don't think it's appropriate.
And for anything else, Dick?
Nope.
All right, Dan?
Just continuing that conversation, I wouldn't want something like that to be dropped, but I do feel like there's probably a better way to facilitate the conversation, because as a city council member at that meeting, I was kind of taken aback. I appreciate the fact that you recognized it came off as rather harsh, but I think that it was pretty detrimental in terms of the open communication. I certainly feel like they should pay their fair share for these services, and I'm hoping that a resolution to that end can be completed. But I do feel like in situations like that, you know, we have to temper how we present things and be as professional and courteous to other government entities as possible. And I know we all have bad days, or we all have times where we would rather not be as polite as we should be, but I think it really comes down to a necessity. And I know it's not always, I'm not always on 100%, but I think in those situations, I think it's really crucial that we present ourselves in a professional and courteous manner.
And I will take responsibility for that. Councilmember Carlson, a letter went out to the borough manager today that you've been copied on, as well as the rest of the council, and I clearly made it that we're not drawing a line in the sand relative to a timeline, but that it can't be an open-ended commitment on the other hand. So.
Agreed.
Matt? Oh, Dan, you got more?
Well, I just wanted to make one more quick comment, because I like reading through all these little notes from the different departments and stuff. And one thing that caught my eye was the Tedbury Civic Center. And I see in here that the facility manager, Rhonda Bowling, had sent out an email to the Southeast Regional Public Health Conference attendees. After they were here using the facilities, she sent a note to thank them for coming to Ketchikan. And I think that's really proactive on her part to be you know, thanking them for using our facilities, for thinking of us as a community that can house events of this nature. And I was really pleased to see that she was so forward-thinking in terms of that type of customer service. I think that says a lot about how she's managing the facility. And in turn, this particular agency responded to her and said that they just couldn't say enough good things about how that facility worked for them. And I think that's huge kudos to Ketchikan, and I think that's, you know, a really instrumental part of our economic base is drawing those groups, more groups like that here, to use our facilities, to rent our hotel rooms, to eat in our restaurants, drink our beer. And I just was really impressed with her level of customer service, and obviously this organization that used the Tedbury Civic Center for their event was as well, and I think that's a really good compliment not only to her but to the city as well.
Thank you very much. Matt?
I'm good, thank you.
Bob?
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, real kudos need to go out to staff in KPU. We recently had a SEPA meeting in town where we were able to take utility managers and assembly members from other communities to both the Whitman Lake project and to Swan Lake. The courtesy we were shown, the explanations and depth of the project that were displayed was outstanding. Swan Lake was amazing for me. I can't say enough about the conditions of the facility and the crew's willingness to share the knowledge of the facility out there. So I thought that was just outstanding. During our SEPA meeting, we were able to talk a little bit about the history of SEPA, all the way from the conception of the four-dam pool on out. We had a financial advisor for SEPA up that gave a real good discussion on bonds. It was very educational. I still don't know everything about bonds, but it enlightened me. We also had great discussions about projects. So I was a little disappointed. We had invited all the mayors. We had one who attended. And at no fault of their own, they had family emergencies and different things show up. But we did have representation from the other communities here, and I thought the meeting progressed and went very well. So thank you to all the Ketchikan members and to the other community members on SEPA for working through that meeting. And I think that's about, oh yeah, also I noticed that Juneau had just come out with a sustainable energy website to talk about conservation. So if anybody wants to, they can kind of take a peek at that. And they had a list of various things that you can do that was pretty good.
Excellent. Marty?
I'll pass.
KJ?
Since Deanne brought up the Civic Center, I did a project up there last 2 weeks ago for the NRA rally. The cracks in the concrete floor back by the kitchen are getting bigger and bigger. They painted them with this brown paint stuff, and you can see the gap getting bigger and bigger. I'm just hoping that somewhere along the line we get our engineers to figure out if we can do anything. I guess that will be that's it.
Well, if they keep going, we'll just make that the lower floor.
Right, well, I understand. That's to the point when you're taking a hand cart and bringing stuff, it'll tip when it gets to them because the holes are so big.
Thank you, KJ. On my list, at that cooperative relations meeting, talking to some of the borough members, they are interested in looking at helping us on that emergency or the dispatch cost. So I think we can get to some resolution. I don't know what it will be, but I think one thing I find out when we go to those meetings is, my thoughts and the borough thoughts, members, assembly members are pretty about the same. So it's amazing how the distance from here to Whitecliff can make things seem so different. So I hope Carl continues to work on that. I went to that. Well, I want to make sure I say something about Rhonda. I'll go up there and bring her a coffee or something, being so wonderful. I'm glad she's back up there and she's doing a great job. Her whole staff is. So she always makes it everybody to feel welcome up there and in Ketchikan. SEPA, I went to the meeting. There was several issues that we've been talking about. SCADA reserves. They had good presentations on that. So I know the SCADA has not been already awarded. They're still looking at what outfits. They're going to have to cut it down to 3 outfits and decide which one they're going to do. KPU is going to be able to review them. Reserves, I understand how they're working on their 5-year plan, but we just got to make sure as they're increasing reserves, the projects they're increasing them for are being done. Otherwise, we're just building reserves possible. They also talked about maybe using some of that money that's been in there and put it into a Swan Lake fund for that raising of the dam, which I think is a great idea. The only issue that didn't get talked about was the operation of maintenance, and that might be coming up again. Bob mentioned to me that might even be delayed again on how we're going to be running the facilities. Are we just going to change Zone M agreement, make some changes to it? Are we going to have SEPA take over operating them? That never got discussed. I'm hoping we can continue on that. I don't think if I have anything else. Oh, this weekend, not only the Art Walk, there's a million things going on in town this weekend. If you don't really have anything to do, there's more things than I can do. So I'm really happy to see the community coming out, and I guess spring is coming and people are getting back out, because from this weekend through May, there's something going on all the time. And So it'll keep us all busy. But hope everybody has a good time this weekend. I have nothing else. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
So moved. Thank you very much, everybody. Good job.